The Hood is set to release about 10 days from the time of recording this, and everyone's wondering how will Parker Robbins actually play in his Marvel Rivals adaptation, because there's one major difference from Marvel Rivals' adaptation of the Hood and the regular Marvel Comics adaptation of the Hood. You see, in most Marvel Comics and even in some MCU projects like Ironheart, the Hood is powered by a cloak and boots enhanced by the power of Dormammu or Mephisto in most adaptations, but in Marvel Rivals, he's powered by Oblivion, which, by the way, for those who don't know, in Marvel Rivals lore, Oblivion actually led him to killing Gambit when Oblivion tasked him to take something from Apocalypse. And warning, there will be some spoilers, and a lot of this moveset will be based off of some leaks people have found in the files, because if I want to make a realistic concept, it has to be based off of leaks that many people have confirmed to at least be partially true. So, spoiler warning for people who don't indulge in leaks. But he's confirmed to be a 2-star Vanguard, which has led many people to think he'll be a shielding tank or a mainline tank like Doctor Strange, which is what I'll be building this kit around. But before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe for more Marvel Rivals content just like this. Now finally, let's get into the Hood in Marvel Rivals. So your primary is named Thieves Firepower. You fire bullets infused with Oblivion's power from your dual pistols, dealing damage to enemies' hits. Now these overheat after 14 consecutive shots, and build up godlike enhancement at moderate pace. You'll find out what that means later in the concept. These have damage and fire rate comparable to Tank Pool's guns, but I'd say they probably have a tad less damage. But don't worry, because these guns can be upgraded further on in the concept. So let's go to the passive for this hypothetical Hood is called Oblivion's Blessing, and it has two different abilities inside of one passive. The first one allows you to use your magic boots to gain the ability to halt in air, giving yourself a mid-air vantage point. Compare this to, I guess, Cyclops' ability to halt in air when using his left trigger ability for my console players, or I guess right mouse button for my PC players. Now the second part triggers when you're below 100 health. You see, when you become, below 100 health, you go invisible for 3 seconds and gain increased movement speed with a 66-second cooldown. I would compare this to Black Cat's Helm of Hades ability, except it triggers when you're below 100 health and not when you have the fortune to purchase it. Now that I'm thinking about it, it would probably bring a ton of toxic DPS players to the Vanguard role, but honestly, I think that's just what this world needs. Now it's time to talk about some real abilities. So let's talk about the Hoods. So your first ability, Godlike Enhancement, ties back into your primary, and like Doctor Strange's Explosion ability, by doing damage with your primary, you can actually build it up and pick between one of two enhancements for your primary. The first one, Godlike Firepower, allows you to infuse your guns with even more of Oblivion's power, increasing the barrel length. Now when enhanced, your guns trigger a secondary explosion when they hit an enemy, and now overheat after 20 consecutive shots instead of 14 and have way lower damage fall off. Basically, this just increases the range and damage and overall output of your guns heavily. Now the second option, Godlike Defenses, allows you to equip both of your guns with small magic shields, one for each gun, and fire them off. Once all of the shields have been fired, the shields expand and take up to 350 damage each. You could compare Invisible Woman's shield ability to the size of how these would perform, except maybe they could be slightly larger. I would imagine if you're solo tanking and you really need to block a ton of shots for your team, but you can't cover the whole arena at once, you could maybe shoot some of these shields off to your healers if they're taking a lot of damage, but you still need to lead the charge. So while these block less total damage than Doctor Strange's shield, they still allow more variety, as you can pop two in two different locations. Next we'll be talking about what I hope to be the Hoods. Now your second ability is going to be the way that you sort of boost your team and allow a push to happen, and it is called Cosmic Veil. You create a circle-shaped area around yourself using Oblivion's power, granting allies a 10% speed and damage boost, while granting passive bonus health gain 20 a second. Now this lasts for up to 5 seconds, and while active you can press the input again to do a dash attack towards a target and launch them into the air with your guns. Now say you had 3 seconds left on your ability, and and you did the dash. Now this would cancel the whole Veil area, but it would give 60 bonus health to nearby allies because you're exerting the whole rest of the time into one big dash. But because this would generate just DPS style greedy hood players, the damage boost and speed boost are not included with this dash. Now with the way I'm building this character, I'm making it in a way where it's going to encourage DPS players to get into the tank role, which is exactly why this dash is similar to Elsa Bloodstone's, except instead of launching you and the opponent into the air, it just launches them. And like I said before, this is going to be your designated team. We need a push move, especially if you're in low elo where there's not many tanks and you're going to need to solo tank with the hood. Being able to not only supply that consistent bonus health boost to your teammates, but also being able to isolate an enemy tank into the air would be insane for making big pushes. Now his third and final ability is what his whole kit has been leading up to. So I introduce you to Dark Projection. Now this works a lot similar to Loki's clone ability, except it has a couple major key differences. Now you project a clone using Oblivion's power, and the clone will attack the enemies closest to it by utilizing special bullets that can displace enemies hit in exchange for slightly lower damage. Now you can teleport to your clone once during its lifetime, but this will also lower the clone's lifetime by 1 second. And no, this would probably be extremely risky because if a Doctor Strange uses his shield and your healers try to heal you while you've teleported all the way into their backline, you're not going to be getting heals, and there's no way to teleport back. So it's really a high risk, high reward ability that should only be used if you know you're going to be safe. But besides that big drawback, this would be an amazing ability for a tank to utilize. Clones are already great abilities in hero shooters, not just Marvel rifles. But not only having one that can displace the enemy back or frontline, but also having one that can be used as mobility or even a shield for your team in some cases is great. This would provide a ton of utility to the hood, and honestly, it would give a big reason to use him in certain specialized comps. Now that his base moveset is fully out of the way, let's talk about his... So the hood's final and most strongest ability, his ultimate, is called Embodiment of Oblivion. And basically how it works is you take in so much of Oblivion's power to the point where you become the embodiment of Oblivion. You float into the air and summon multiple clones behind you that all shoot down on a selected location for up to 3 seconds before dashing down to the ground and scattering for up to 3 seconds. Now if you don't understand what I said, or if you don't understand the text on the screen, basically you just shoot a bunch with a bunch of clones and then send them down to a selected target location. But what makes this so strong is just like your original clone, they all inhabit your original abilities. Now of course they're severely weakened because having 10 clones that can all use godlike firepower, that's way too strong. But imagine this in a high stakes moment. It's your rank up game. You're going to Grandmaster and the point is maybe a couple seconds away from being claimed, but the enemy team has 3 enemies on point while you only have 2. You pop your ult and suddenly 10 clones shoot down. You pop Cosmic Veil and now everyone on your team is getting a major boost to their damage, speed, and all of the above. You finally get that point back and you rank up to Grandmaster. So of course, honestly, I am not the greatest at balancing ults, but I would assume with a couple tweaks and a couple nerfs, this would be such a clean ultimate to pull off in high stakes situations. So what are your opinions on my rendition of how the hood should play in Marvel Rivals? I built him more like a 3-star Vanguard than a 2-star Vanguard, and I realized that Marvel Rivals is probably not going to go the same direction I did. I originally had built him like a 4-star Vanguard that was a bit more focused on the powers that Dormammu had, but then they revealed that he's more based on Oblivion, so I had to really change up his whole skill set. So feel free to drop down below in the comments what you thought of my custom moveset for how the hood should play. I am completely fine with taking suggestions, or maybe how you think he would play in your ideal Marvel Rivals universe, but please no hate, man. I'm just a small creator just like all of you guys, and with that being said, click on one of these videos on screen right now. See you in the next one. Peace.